Okay, I just have to share the public input slide. Just 1 second.
Oh, thanks, David.
Okay.
All right. Hello, everybody. This is a public meeting, and this is a public meeting that is being recorded. To quickly meet the community needs, applications for funding will be considered on a rolling basis until the fund is exhausted. The organizations whose applications are being reviewed today may be asked to participate in the meeting by providing comments when asked a question by the Pinellas Cares Nonprofit Partnership Fund Grant Committee. If attending the Zoom meeting by computer or other smart device, you may be unmuted to respond back to the given question from the Grants Committee in the Zoom application. You will have 3 minutes to respond to each question. If attending the Zoom meeting by phone, you will be unmuted when it is your turn to speak, and then you will have to press *6 on your phone to unmute yourself. If you are representing an organization whose application will be reviewed today, please enter your name and your organization into the chat function of Zoom so we can recognize you if questions are asked from the committee. At the conclusion of your comments, you will be muted again. Please note that all committee members and staff participating in this meeting have signed conflict of interest forms. And for those of you who are viewing this meeting via YouTube or recording and would like to provide feedback on the grants process, you may submit your comments to caresfeedback@pinellascf.org. We will respond to you and your comments as soon as possible, but this feedback will not be answered live. And now it is off to our lead dog, Sally, who's going to run our meeting for today.
Thank you, Brittany. Welcome to everyone. I'm glad the gang's all here. You're always valuable, and your insights are very helpful. I'm just noticing on so many of the applications that we have that, you know, you've really studied them and given them some good thinking. So thank you for that.
Madam Chair, may I say before we begin, for those of you viewing from YouTube, I am a guest in Group A and will not be voting on requests.
Okay, thank you, Carl. Always good to say that, and helpful. And so I'm going to turn to Cherie right now, who will give us an update on the fund status, where we're at and where we can go.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Sally. So with that, the Pinellas Cares team has been pretty busy the past few weeks, and we have approved $12,184,215.30. The amount remaining we have in the fund is $17,515,784.70. Please keep in mind, this is how much funding has been approved by the committee, not necessarily how much has been distributed. To the right, you will see the pie chart that tells you a little bit more about where it is that we have been spending. The bulk of it has continued to be around food insecurity at 57%, about 24% with behavioral health, and almost 20% with eviction mitigation. Next slide, please.
Cherie, do we want to talk about why this amount went down a little from last week because of the contract adjustments? Or should I, or Duggan?
Yeah, I'm happy to do it. So you will see a slight adjustment in the amount approved and the amount remaining. That is because we had some partners that once committee approved them, decided to not move forward in the process, and or some grant partners have actually adjusted their budgets down due to a change in the indirect cost and other things. So that is why the amount approved and the amount remaining have been tweaked over the past week or so.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for the reminder.
Just wanted to cover that.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the reminder.
Good point.
So weekly summary, we have 6 requests before you this week, totaling about $1.2 million. So we have a lot of good decisions to make today. And I think with that, we are ready to go. Committee members, do you have any additional questions for me?
Okay, well, we'll have questions along the way, I'm sure. So let's get started. So our first one is Operation PAR. So let's look for a minute at the reviewers' comments. Do we have someone on the phone, David, to respond to questions?
Yes, we do. Let's see.
I don't see Rachel on there as of yet, but she could be hiding.
Oh,
I don't see anybody from Operation PAR that has joined just yet in the chat.
Oh, I confused it with an organization.
Yeah, but more than likely they'll be popping on shortly.
Okay, well, let's see if there's any discussion. And were there questions that maybe staff can answer for you? Capital budget, for example, is allowable. Had it been vetted? Cherie?
Sure. So regarding their capital expenses, yes, they have been vetted. Yes, we have received updates and bids along with estimates regarding all of their capital, and they have adequately responded to that.
Okay.
And that has also gone through the first round of review by the fiscal team over at the county. But as you know, there's a bit more ways they have to go in terms of other county fiscal staff reviewing it.
Sure.
And Dr. Barbara might be able to answer this question. I saw that they had 2 goals. I know most of the programs had 1 goal, and they were slightly different but similar. And I don't know if we want to wait for PAR, but I was just wondering if we needed to track both or if one is sufficient for.
One would have, as not only would one be sufficient, one is required by our data system. And I've had numerous discussions with grantees who want to give us, and this is what I say to them: you can measure whatever you want, as many as you want for the assessment. We are asking you to report on what you consider to be one robust measure, which represents the evidence that you want to provide to us. So I do remember having a conversation with them about that one. I'm trying to remember which one we decided on, but my advice to them was to settle on one. And maybe when the representative gets on the phone, because I've really encouraged people not to even describe anything that they're not going to report to us, because I find it confusing. Make a decision ahead of time on what you're going to report and revolve your whole discussion around that one thing that you are going to report. They could mention other outcomes in their description of the program, for example, or the need of the program, but in that methodology section, to be targeted on the one data point that they're going to share with us. So,
And if I may, I believe that they did have an updated measurement and methodology as of the 20th. So that would have been this past Tuesday.
Right.
I can try to send that over to David if you guys want me to pull it up, or we can just wait until they get on the line and ask them about it.
I did ask them to narrow it down to one. So I think that's what that revision should have been.
They have they have 2 goals, but I mean, I can share my screen just fine. They have 2 goals, but I think what they're tracking is admit and
Let me read this quickly. Go down to the methodology section, David. Thank you.
Oh, let me put both. There we go.
All right. Okay, so it looks like they're going to, I read so many of these, they're all coming together in my head right now. Let's see. So they're going to be tracking admissions. Scroll up a little bit more so I can see their methodology completely. Thanks. So they saw.
That was their old answers.
Yeah, those are the old answers.
So what's on the screen now is their current answers.
All right. So they're going to be measuring an increase in admissions. Their point was that because of difficulties with outreach and engagement, their admissions dropped. And you can see there are 3 programs. There's MAPS, Detox, and Residential. So there was a 96% decrease in one, 55% in the other, and then a 25% decrease in their residential program. My point to them is you can't serve anybody that you can't reach and you can't engage. So it would be impossible to really help these people with their behavioral health interventions if they could not reach them. So their success progress metric is a 10% increase in census in each program in November and December. So the census increase is their outcome. And in introducing their program, what I asked them to do is to make the strong conceptual leap between getting people in and being able to address their behavioral health challenges. Now, I thought maybe, to me, originally, I thought the 10% increase seemed low, but that is what I would ask the representative from the program to address. I try not to argue with people about their targets because I don't live in their world and I don't know the complexity of what it is that they are dealing with. My point is to understand what the metric is and to allow them to set the performance level, if you will, for that particular metric. So I think, some of the discussion might be, is a 10% increase, given the drops, 95, 55, 25, is a 10% increase a meaningful increase? And they would have to address that.
Okay, Barbara. We
And
still,
that
Go ahead.
10% is based on where they are now in terms of
Right.
numbers, right?
Yes.
So,
Mhm.
so
So in
overall,
that case, for example, in the MAPS program, it should go to 85 from 95 because they said
Right.
in each of the programs. So for detox, it would go to 45 from 55. And
Gotcha.
my question is that enough of an increase? It certainly is for the people that get re-engaged, but for the program, is that a robust enough amount? And I think that's a fair question to ask.
Right.
we still don't have anyone on so far.
No,
as you can
Sally,
see,
we
David?
don't. I have been working offline to try to reach program staff, and
I
I'm
thought you
unable
had-
to get in contact with anyone. They were provided with the Zoom information earlier in the week. So,
But I will say they were very cooperative when I raised this with them and going back to rewrite that section. So,
Well, let's table this for now. Come back to it if someone comes on. Is everyone okay with doing that?
Yep.
And we'll just move on to the next one, which is the Tarpon Springs Shepherd Center. And did you want to make some remarks about the Shepherd Center, Cherie?
I did. Thank you, Sally. So just a few updates about Tarpon Springs Shepherd Center. David, if you could please pull up their budget summary page for me. So this is one that we as staff team were unable to understand. I see that it's actively reflected in the comments. Staff have worked with them behind the scenes to better understand the work that the Tarpon Springs Shepherd Center intends to do. So this is their most recent up-to-date budget summary. So what I would kindly request after we have a conversation about the organization, the total amount before us is $68,054, not the $161,000 that they had requested prior to. So if you would please, after conversation, if you'd be willing to perhaps allow staff to go back to work with Tarpon Springs Shepherd Center so that we can understand exactly the amount for reimbursement versus the amount that's looking forward. They have asked us to cover expenses for both, for reimbursement in the past, so that would be from March the 1st through the start of the program date, all the way through, and then again through, let's say, October the 1st through December the 30th. And so the amount that we are looking at today for the request is $68,054, with the understanding that program staff will go back and work with Tarpon Springs Shepherd Center and assist them with the exact amount for their reimbursement versus the amount looking forward. So I wanted to make that update because I understand it was a bit confusing. I have been in conversation with them over the past week about this as they continue to work to pull together additional information to make the justification for their reimbursement and for the amount looking forward. What I can tell you is in their personnel line item, which is the largest line item, they have provided, and Dave, if you want to flip through to the budget narrative, they have provided quite a bit of justification around why these positions are needed based upon the expansion due to COVID. What we need to do now is to really understand deeper the amount that's actually for reimbursement and what amount is actually looking forward.
So the 68,000 currently includes reimbursement?
So yes, ma'am, it does. It does include some reimbursement as
Uh-huh.
well as some looking forward. And so we will
Right,
work with
okay.
them,
Okay.
after this meeting to figure
Uh-huh.
out those exact amounts that we can tease those out between reimbursement and the amount looking forward to get to the
Sure.
total. Yay.
Right. And I remember that there were concerns about the,
David, could you go back to the comments, please, for a moment? I think that might be helpful for the team to see. So if you look at the PowerPoint, we have updated that and what's reflected on their most recent budget summary that they submitted to us at $68,054. I do see some questions around adding or around understanding the proposal and the amount, the amount for the proposal versus the amount for the reimbursement. And staff have been able to chat with them about that. And we're still working to tease those two out.
it looks like the de minimis has been taken out altogether from.
Yes, the de minimis has been taken out along with the thrift store loss of income.
Okay.
That's actually not allowable expense. And so that is a significant reduction that you do see.
Right.
Also in the budget narrative, they did a great job of helping us better understand that as the food pantry needs continue to increase significantly, they were able to utilize and not lay off those workers. They were able to reutilize them in the food pantry to meet
Yes.
the need in the community around food insecurity.
Okay, good.
Cherie, I just want to speak to that because I do understand the thrift store's loss. It affected their bottom line and their ability to operate. So however we can work them to reimburse for those allowable actual costs and bills that they had to pay and that went unpaid or were a loss that would have been paid with thrift store profits. If we could capture that, I understand what they were trying to do, but I understand how it's not allowable as well.
Absolutely.
And then just for the record, also the refrigerator, which I understand why they needed the upgrade, but just to assure that we have the proper documentation as it is quite an increase and then wasn't part of, I just want to make sure the paper trail is there for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that is, Sarah, one of the things that I have been talking with the Tarpon Springs Shepherd Center to better understand that situation. Unfortunately, they were in the process of building a new freezer. And as a result of COVID and due to the significant increase, they had to actually expand the size again of the freezer to accommodate the need. And so they're actually requesting that we pay for the difference, which is about $13,000. But yes, the justification is there and is reflected in the new narrative, but it will be much cleaner as we work with them to complete the documentation, the backup documentation that's needed. Thank you for the question.
Sarah, thanks to the raise, I keep nodding off, and so I forgot what your question was related to the thrift store. Tell me what your concern is.
It wasn't a question. I see that they had removed it. It was more of a comment where I understood how the loss in profit affected their personnel. And there was a way that we can recover those actual costs, but it's just that lump sum wasn't the way to do that.
Oh, okay, good. So there may be some recovery there. That's a possibility, is what you're saying.
And like Cherie said, they do have extensive documentation. It's just the separation that's not clear. But
Sure.
I think reimbursing for that personnel that was reassigned is completely allowable and the intent of these funds.
Okay, great. Thank you. Do we have someone on the phone from Tarpon Springs Shepherd Center, David?
We do.
Yeah. We have Susan Conrad.
Yeah.
Susan and I have been chatting along with Ada, who is the executive director, to help us understand the budget and the budget narrative. And Susan actually has been working really hard behind the scenes to update the budget narrative. Did we have a specific question for Susan?
Yeah, anybody have a question that you want to direct to Susan?
I did have a question about them serving the 5,700. Did they meet that goal of 5,700 in September? And where are they in terms of meeting the goals of those served in October? Is there an estimate?
She's unmuting. There we go.
I believe the goals were met. There'd been Ada and Diane and myself, and I had been told that both Ada and Diane would also be on this call. And they have been more involved in this most recent update than I have been, because I'm now kicking off already our Christmas gift program and trying to work out the logistics of doing that without face-to-face meeting with our clients. So that's been a little bit of my focus the last couple of weeks, but Ada's been working to keep me in the loop of what's been going on with this. So I can state to my knowledge, the goal for the number of clients served in September was achieved, and we are probably going to exceed that by the time we get to the end of October. I drive by the Shepherd Center. I had a meeting south of Tarpon this morning at 10 o'clock, and at 9:45 as I drove past the outreach center, the line for people to get food was around the corner, and the doors don't open till 10. So, and I've seen people lined up at 9 o'clock in the morning wanting to get there and get the first, get in and get out type of thing. So the need continues. The need is when people find out that we exist and that they can come every week and get food and don't have to get into a line of cars and that's serving maybe once a month. People are taking the bus line and the trolley line up from Dunedin and Palm Harbor if they don't have transportation, to get service at the pantry. So it's, each week it almost seems that we grow exponentially.
But we were really just trying to lay down the specific numbers. I think that was the question Iako had. So
okay,
satisfied with that? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm good.
Any other questions? I think a lot of the comments that we made are getting answered or have been answered because of the modification, you might say, of the budget. So it looks to me like our concerns were consistent with the whole committee, and they've been addressed or are being addressed. So what, Barbara, do you have something you want to say?
No, I was trying to look. David, do you think even if we move on to the next application, in the absence of someone from Operation PAR being on the call, I'm wondering if you could pull up the latest version, their modified version of their evaluation section, so we can all take a look at it?
Wait, for Shepherd Center?
No, I'm going back to
We're still on Shepherd
Well,
Center.
yeah.
I realize that. My request is as we move along, if nobody from Operation PAR is on the call, if we could pull up their modification and take a look at it. That was my
We'll be able to. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see what we want to do with the Tarpon Springs Shepherd Center. So, of course, it's a food request. The score might be a little different, to be honest with you, now that there's some changes in answers to questions. But whatever the case, what is the pleasure of the committee? Does anybody want to make a motion that we will move forward with this, or what would you like to do?
I'll do it. I move that we approve the Tarpon Springs Shepherd Center, $68,054 as per our discussion.
And I suppose the caveat to that is that, of course, we get the fine tuning of the budget, which is still, it sounds like, from Cherie, a work in progress.
That was
right?
the intention, yeah.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Stacy. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Is there anyone opposed? Okay, thank you, committee members. All right, is there someone on with Operation PAR now?
Someone dialed in that I will try to get to talk. So if your phone number ends in 282, you'll have to press *6 to unmute. And could you let us know if you're with Operation PAR or what organization you're with? You're unmuted. Hello?
We don't hear you. *6.
I'm sorry. This is Zofia Whiting, and I'm with PEMS.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank
All
you.
right. All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
let's leave Operation PAR. Dr. Barber, you wanted us to look at.
I think we should keep going, and if they don't show up by the end of the review, maybe we could pull up their revised section and I could address it. Thank you.
I think that's a good idea. Okay, so let's move on to Inner Explorer, Inc. Okay, do we have a person on the phone, David, for Inner Explorer?
We do. We have 2 representatives.
Okay.
Sally, I just want to mention that my score on here is wrong, and my comments are not on here.
Oh, okay.
I let Brittany know. I don't know. She probably have time to change it.
I will definitely update that after this meeting, so it's correct on the actual minutes and the PowerPoint that gets posted publicly. And if you could, Stacy, just share your comments as you would.
I think the score was like low in the 70s.
If you want me to say it, Stacy, I can say your score and read your comments. I have them. It was a 76, and come on. And it was have all the 121 schools that are proposed to receive the new software program, tried the program, and agreed to the program and implementation process. The rate of pay for their staff seems extremely high.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Stacy. I must say, I'm not sure which my measurement was, 92 or 99. It was because that's the first.
It was 92.
92. I still think it was too high, and I must have made a mistake in pushing some, and it's my mistake. I'm not saying anything about you, but I think with the questions that I had that were outstanding, I think my 92 is too high. And I would have to go back and look at the application, which I will do because I look on my computer. Let's see if we can have the persons that are representing Inner Explorer online, please.
And while that person joins the call, I want to say for the record that we are mentioned, the foundation, as a funder. This was a capacity building grant. It was not a fund grant for service delivery. And the distinction should be made there, and that grant is still pending for the record.
Okay, thank you, Carl. That's why you're here, to tell us good information like that. Thank you. Okay.
So we have Laura and Mary
Yes.
that are able to answer questions.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I don't know who you are, but we can hear you.
Okay, great. My name's Laura Baykosh, and I am the co-founder of Inner Explorer. We're a nonprofit. We're nationwide. I live in Sarasota, and we've actually been working in the district now for, I think, 4 years, initially funded by the Aetna Foundation. And we just finished a project with the Foundation for Healthy St. Pete and a number of early learning centers with Head Start in collaboration with a USF research project. So, we do have a track record locally. We're in a number of schools in Hillsborough. We're in every school in Sarasota. We're in every school in Broward County.
And but you're okay. Questions?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, go.
Couple questions, several questions. Do you have any offices in Pinellas County? I see the address is Sarasota, but do you have any offices in Pinellas County?
We do not have any offices in the district. We're a nationwide organization, so we bring this kind of programming to about 1.5 million kids currently, and families and educators in lots of different markets. So we're a technology delivered program, so we can sort of be virtual, which is kind of nice these days with what's happening with COVID. So, but we do have local staff in the region.
So what is the, so is there any personal kind of interaction? One of the things I've learned when I moved to this county is that Pinellas County is a very unique, very interesting county. And I wonder, with its uniqueness and with its complexity of the county, I wonder what that looks like for an organization with no presence, if you will, except in the 6 schools. And that's all virtual.
Right. So, it's a complex question. So in some ways we've already developed relationships with the district administrators and with a number of different educators in the region, and that's helping us expand sort of slowly. And what we're proposing here is an acceleration of that expansion. So I think the key point is that think of this like the teeth brushing of dental health. Daily mindfulness practice is to mental health what daily teeth brushing is to dental health. You don't need a dentist in your bathroom when you're brushing your teeth. You just need to do it every day. And that's what we're promoting with this approach. We're saying if kids simply practice with their teachers in the classroom, it's audio guided. They can be at home, they can be in the class, it can be asynchronous or synchronous. Pressing a button, listening to a guided practice for 5 or 10 minutes a day reduces depression, anxiety, suicide ideation, addiction type behaviors, self-harm type behaviors. There's 7,000 published studies on this topic. The US military uses this practice in every branch. Every top university around the country is doing mindfulness because it works to reduce stress and improve cognition and improve performance. So we know at the start we need to have relationships in the region, and we've been building those. A lot of help from our friends at Aetna, actually. But like I said, we think this is a great opportunity and a really ideal time to expand because kids and educators and families are suffering. So this is prevention at the core.
I have one more question and I'll let somebody else because it just kind of leads into this. With this, had you considered reaching out to any LPOs within Pinellas County who are also doing some work on mindfulness? I know in specific there is an organization, Speakeasy, Clayton Sizemore, who's doing some work on mindfulness also in Pinellas County School. Have you had any interaction or contact with him or anybody else in the county, LPOs? Because I noticed you didn't have any other LPOs in the community.
Yep. So we've worked to some degree with frameworks. And I think the key is that because this is automated, it's delivered through technology into the classroom and into the homes. It's very foundational to what other things happen. Now we have integrated with all of the technology tools like Clever and Schoology and all of the learning management systems that the districts use. So we work in collaboration with those guys to simplify access for the educators. They don't have to go to our site and log in. They have a panel on their screen in school or at home, and they just click and can get access. So a lot of our work has really been about integrating to those tools. So for instance, we're integrated with Kindle, with desktops, with phones, with laptops. We're even working with Comcast and some of the cable providers to have it be accessible on, on their platform, so that no matter what children have in the home or in the classroom, they can access these stress reduction and cognitive enhancing tools.
Thank you.
So Laura, when you just talked about the LPOs, you mentioned frameworks. Frameworks, from my understanding, is only available and working in Hillsborough County. Can you please provide additional information about that and exactly what you're doing in connection with them in Pinellas County?
So we have actually mostly been in collaboration to discuss how we might work together. So we're in a couple of schools together in Hillsborough, and I thought that they had a project in Pinellas, but maybe I'm wrong on that. So we sort of cross promote, but we don't have a formal agreement to work together.
Thank you.
And hi, Laura. I was just wondering, I know you've mentioning that it is all electronic platform, and I think it's a $700 licensure. Can you go into what that cost entails for each, because I think it's for each school, individual school. If you can just explain that breakdown for us, just so we understand what is getting paid for.
Yes. So the site licenses are actually $1,400 a year, but what we're proposing here is a half year. By the time we implement, the school will have access to it through June. So that was written in the proposal. And in that, with that fee, every single classroom gets access to the program in all age groups. So from preschool all the way through high school. Every family gets full access to the program as well. So you might have a student that's in a high school, and you may have a little kid at home, and maybe you want to use the program for that child as well. Family access gives them the chance to use the tool for weekends and holidays and summers and that kind of thing. So, so for $1,400 a year, and in this case, $700 for the rest of this year, all of those things are included. But I think the key is really the impact. So we're talking about behavioral health. So imagine if every student in Hillsborough County experiences 30% less depressive symptoms and anxieties. Imagine if in every school you have 60% fewer behavior problems in the classroom or sort of in the remote learning world that some of us are still in. That's what we're talking about. So for $1,400 a year, that's what you get. And besides that, we didn't totally mention it in the proposal because we're really focused on behavior, but children experience 15% improvement in academic performance. So in several schools in this region, we've closed the achievement gap. So consider that in our schools that are, sometimes D and F and even C schools, to have those schools move into C, B, and A category. So when kids are less stressed, they're able to learn. And when they can learn, they are able to succeed in their academic life and hopefully as they move on to post-secondary and careers, right? And then we break the cycle. I mean, that's kind of why we're doing this work across the country. We're looking at how do we stop generational poverty from occurring in the first place? And this is a tool that can help us get there.
Sally, this is Barbara. I clicked off mistakenly for a few minutes. Was the issue of the measures in this proposal addressed? There are a couple of questions about the outcome measures.
We haven't talked about it yet, but I would love to hear the questions.
Okay, well, one, Laura, was if one robust measure was enough. The answer has to be, because that's what we asked you to provide. The other thing was, I think there was some question about looking at behavioral events as an outcome measure. And I just wanted to say, as someone who's done a lot of evaluation in school system, the measurement of behavioral events is quite common in terms of suspensions and detentions and children being referred to the principal's office. The other thing is good records are kept of them. So it makes measurement over time fairly reliable. So someone was asking for my opinion as the evaluator. That's my opinion. And if you would like to address that as well.
Yes, that is exactly why we picked that measure, because it is reliable, it's well documented, and it's accessible in most school districts. So we could gather that data without having child-specific information. And then we can compare that to usage of the tool. So if they're doing daily mindfulness practice or not, and that's how we can assess the impact. And that's, as I said, there's a bunch of studies that have been done, randomized trials that are showing 60% fewer behavior problems in schools and centers as a result of the program.
Right.
And that's what USF just found actually in Pinellas and the Head Start centers. In addition, they found children had improved executive functioning. So for those of you that may not know that term, it's really just about the part of the brain associated with learning. So when we're optimizing executive functioning, it's really impactful for what the child is able to sort of learn and do.
And just a quick question, this is Emery. So access to technology, has that been a barrier for low-income families at all in terms of accessing this program?
Good question.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, we were technology delivered before. Our model is really through the classroom because that's where most kids are. However, when COVID occurred, it helped us accelerate our family companion app. And that app, unlike a lot of apps, isn't just for mobile, it's for desktop and it's even for Kindle. And I was mentioning we have active programs with LG to help us build the platform into their smart TVs. We have programs working with people like Comcast to make it available on cable. So the good news is that even though there are still some challenges, I think, with access overall for all of us, we're closing the gap really quickly. One last point is that unlike, lots of different pieces of technology, we give families and children a chance to download the practices when they are near a Wi-Fi hotspot, for instance, and then listen later when there's no connectivity. So it doesn't require full connectivity, but you do need either mobile or Wi-Fi or something. The other point is, that's what's happening with schools also for kids that are remote.
Madam Chair, I would ask that as the committee considers the motion, whenever we get to that the integrity of the COVID-19 funds and crisis mitigation, and whether or not this particular request fits that, specifically because the corporation is not located in the county, and there isn't a network of LPOs that we can reference that can say or validate necessarily the necessary collaboration around InterExplorer. I put that out there for your consideration, not that the program is not a good program, and not that this methodology is not a good methodology. I put it out there for you to consider the integrity of COVID-19 dollars as we've been asked to consider.
I agree. I do want to, do you know which 6 schools in Pinellas County you're currently working in?
I don't have the list in front of me, but I know that it's Meadowlawn Middle, Shore Acres, Seminole High School, Countrywide. I can get the other 2. I think those are at least 4 of the 6. But if I can also make a comment, this isn't a program that requires real integration with other local partners. It requires integration with the school district. And we do have a history of that integration and success, delivering programs that are having an impact on children. And this, more than any time in my young 50-something-year-old life, is a time that we need to be delivering stress relief to children and to families, because there's a biological effect of stress that is profound and influences brain development in really, really challenging ways. And if we don't intervene during the children's early years, we are leaving them susceptible to many greater challenges as they grow up. So this is a proven 40-year, investment in research and development. It's a proven approach that reduces stress for kids and for families and for educators. If not now, I don't know when. because everybody I talk to is absolutely stressed out.
The schools that you mentioned, I would like to have heard, and I know you couldn't remember the other two, but I would like to have heard some schools that were in areas where there may have been barriers to technology. Those schools, because of the neighborhoods that they feed into their schools, and I'm not 100% sure, but I just wonder if the socioeconomics for those schools might be very different than the socioeconomics for some other schools who may not have any technology in the home.
But this doesn't require it in the home. If the kids are in school, the teachers do this in the classroom. So this is just follows the classroom. Families can use it at home as an adjunct, but it's really designed to be part of the school day. So Broward County, as an example, has allocated 10 minutes a day for mindfulness in every school, in every building in that district, as a nod to the fact that this is critically important if we expect kids to learn.
So Laura,
this year.
I'm sorry,
Yes, go
but
ahead.
to that point, has there been any coordination within Pinellas County School District and with Pinellas County schools on how, in the stress environment with the classrooms, a lot of them being remote, how that would be integrated in such a short time to be able to roll it out? I think our concern, I think most of us are behavioral health and mental health advocates. I think our concern is more with the community that we serve and the potential disengagement. I think your program is incredible and the outreaches that you're doing are great. We're just worried about that connection with Pinellas County and that actual rollout. I'm speaking for myself. I don't mean to speak for the entire committee. Apologies.
Yeah, I'd like to maybe highlight and then also ask a question, because I don't know, I think the earlier question was whether or not you had an office in the Pinellas County area. So the bigger question, and you mentioned that you don't, that you're a national company. So I guess my question is maybe to you and also to staff, does this still meet the criteria for CARES funding if they're not sort of physically located in Pinellas County? I mean, it sounds like it may be there might be a gray area, because certainly there's services being delivered to students through schools in Pinellas County, but it's still not a Pinellas County address or base or office. And so that's kind of the question that I would raise. Does this, because of that reason, meet the criteria?
And that's our own staff question, not necessarily to Laura. So
correct.
Yeah. To your point, Emery, you know, one of the pieces of eligibility criteria is proven performance on prior commitments to the community. And so I think it really gets to some of the questions that have been asked, and Ayakio's question. You know, it would be interesting to know, so if you're in 6 schools right now, what's the level of usage? What is the feedback from the teachers and from, you know, the school leadership as to the effectiveness of the program or change? But that's a piece of the eligibility criteria. So we didn't necessarily say you have to be local or headquartered here in Pinellas County, but we're looking for proven performance on prior commitments to this community. So since there is some relationship existing already in 6 schools, I think knowing more data about that would help, and knowing exactly where things stand. It would also be good to know what is looked for in this application is contracts signed, I guess, with various schools to avail themselves of this. It would be good to know if the existing 6 relationships with those schools have happened on a compensated basis, and what the agreement has been and the expected performance has been. I think that gets us to the answer of this proven performance on prior commitments to the community. So that's where we sort of derive that piece that's community-based, Emery. And so I think answering those questions, and maybe it can't easily be done here, and we can get some follow-up. I had some additional, two other things. One, I wanted to make sure that everyone understands clearly that this committee makes its determination, whether it funds a project or not, and we forward those determinations to Pinellas County. And Pinellas County itself makes a determination as to whether or not it will stand by the committee's recommendations before we execute a contract. So there's other pieces to this puzzle I want to make sure everybody knows with that. And that's a question at the county level that we've already experienced is the commitment to community question. So I know that that's in their mind as well. And then the final question I have actually relates to the audit that was done and presented as a part of this. In the audited financial report for 2019 and 2020, there was a few related party transactions where the organization is purchasing some of its IT services from, and just wanted to dig in that if funds are allocated for this, how we're making sure that there's an appropriate selection of vendors and things like that on the basis that there were already related party transactions listed in the audit. Not that it's prohibitive, you know, and we only know that information because this organization has had an audit and it's been declared, it's here. But just wanting to know how that ultimately shakes itself out if federal funds are allocated, you know, what the selection of vendors gets down to, since it seems like a related party they purchase IT services and other things from.
And anything you want to add, Sherry? We got it. Okay.
Thanks for asking, Sally. I apologize. I was on mute. No, there's nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay. And those were some of the questions I had that we would get to eventually. So I'm very interested in, and I was surprised that there were no LPOs since you mentioned 6 schools. A letter from Dr. Gregoire, as well as from the principal or teachers of the school that are using the product, so to speak, would have been of great satisfaction to me, at least. That to know that they were feeling like it was a helpful and important behavioral health piece to children's lives. And then I too was
sorry, I missed that completely. Sorry,
okay.
I did not understand that as part of the agreement.
So you missed it, but you didn't list any LPOs, as I recall. Why not?
So we had submitted a grant through the same foundation several months ago when COVID had initially hit. And we put in a letter at that time from Lori Matway, one of the administrators of the district. And she's been one of the people that we've worked really closely with as we've rolled this out in various schools. And I guess, you know, I don't have an excuse besides I missed it. So I didn't mention, but we're an organization of 10. We're serving 1.5 million kids across the country. And I live here. We've had, you know, incredible engagement in the community. And I guess I just missed that step. So I'm deeply sorry. And if there's a chance to get some of those and follow back up with you all, I'd really be grateful to be able to do that.
I would be far more satisfied than I am right now. This is Sally, the chair speaking. So as Duggan brought up some of those questions about, well, let's start with compensated. Are any of your arrangements with any of the schools compensated already? Are they compensated arrangements?
You mean, have they paid?
Yes.
Yes. So we called out 6 that are current customers, and I think 4 of them have paid and 2 of them have been granted again through Aetna.
Okay.
So Aetna has a strong relationship with Meadowlawn, and with Shore Acres. In fact, one of the Aetna employees, her children go to Shore Acres. So those two schools are sort of the schools that they continue to support.
So this seems like a really basic question. So why would we pay for that?
They've been pulled out of our grant application. So if in the narrative, we outline the fact that there are 121 schools that were targeted, 6 of them would be pulled out because they already have contracts. So that leaves 115. Sorry
Okay.
if that wasn't clear.
Yeah, it wasn't clear to me. And I may have not read it well. So you have 100,000 people that you're intending to reach, is that right?
Yes. So the program will be accessible to every child, every educator, and every family. We know from Broward and Sarasota and some other places that not every single one is going to engage fully. And that's part of the ramp up process that we go through, but it will be accessible to all of them, and we'll do our best to make sure that they understand. We've improved how we onboard children families and educators. So it's a link, it's a 1-minute sign up process. They pick their school and they get access immediately. The administrators of each school can now see who's engaged and who isn't, from teachers and from families. And then the district administrators can also see the entire district. And that's the data that we'll use as we assess behavior.
I just have to ask a quick follow-up question to that point. So, out of the number of youth that have access, do you have the percentage that actually maybe used it on a regular basis?
Yes, so it's, again, we mostly deliver through classrooms. So the teacher would access it and the whole class would listen at the same time. And then families could tune in from home or work. So that's kind of the base model.
Okay.
But the classroom can be anywhere now, as we all understand. So with that, most apps in the world have about 5% usage, so pretty low. As you know, if you look at your phone and you look at all your apps, you can probably understand that. Or if you have programming that you have on your desktop, same thing. With our program, we have over 40% regular usage. So again, we're like the teeth brushing example. We're going for every day. This works when you do it all the time. It's prevention. When families are engaged as well, and this is a newer lesson over the last year and a half, when families are engaged, usage goes up beyond 80%. So all of our focus in the last year has been, how do we engage more families so that we can keep this sort of cycle of practice together, right? Because if a family joins, the educator is more likely to press play. When the kids get the practices every day, they're behaving better, they're feeling better, they're performing better. It inspires parents and caregivers to, that's what we hear all the time. My kids don't fight as much anymore at home. My kids are more focused on doing their homework. I might need this too. And then the educators, when they have kids that are coming into class with less stress and less anxiety, they can get more done. The educators feel better. And it just creates this really nice cycle of practice and community.
Sally, in the interest of time, I hate to be the timekeeper, it's 2:00, and we do have several other grants that we need to review today.
Okay. Well, obviously there were a lot of questions about this one, probably not all of them answered yet, but I think we've got at least the gist of them answered. And so, what is the pleasure of the committee? So let me be candid. I would feel a lot more comfortable as chair moving forward on this with some more information about the LPOs, who's really the partners here. I don't know, somehow it just feels like a program that's trying to get overlaid in this community without being clear about who is our partners. I think the program sounds like a good program. I would like to know some more about the transactions that Duggan mentioned. of partners in terms of everything, including providers of internet services and so on, because it gets back to Emery's question and Iaco's question about are these kids getting served? So that's where I'm at. But if the board the committee wishes to go differently, that's fine too. So let's get at least a motion on the floor or a decision about tabling it.
I agree that I would want some more information, like Sarah's question wasn't answered. And the one I kind of threw at the beginning have all these schools agreed to it, and who is actually making this decision for Pinellas County? It seems to me like the company's making the decision and pushing it onto the schools. I would have felt better if Pinellas County has decided to implement this into all their schools and the teachers are on board and they're going to actually use the program.
Correct.
I'm not saying it's not a good program. I just don't feel the buy-in, or maybe it is there, but it's not been explained to us.
Is there other sentiment? Is there thinking that we might table it or deny it and have them come back again?
I would support tabling until we gather the additional information and data, particularly from the schools. So.
Okay. And Laura, I think you could go back and look at the recording, be sure that you kind of cover all the questions because there were a lot of them. And I think it's really important to get that. It's certainly less in the measurement area and much more in partnerships and transactions that you're having with others. Of course, we know about the Aetna partnership, but they're obviously backing off on this one. So, we want to hear more. And we certainly want to hear from the school system, make sure that they're on board with it and that families do have access to it as you suggest. So,
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Just one additional question. I think at a deeper level, we do have the letter on file from Lori Matway for an application that was made to the Tampa Bay Resiliency Fund. But I think this gets a little deeper to Stacy's point. I have immense respect for Lori, but we know from arts programming that we do in the schools and that we fund in the schools often with programming like this operate bottom up. And so they would make programming available, but then it's up to principals and teachers whether or not they want to engage in that. So I think having a better idea, like Stacy mentioned, of what schools want to engage with this and are saying, hey, if we got this funded, we would use it or we need it, would be helpful. And as well as the more detailed information from those 6 schools where they already are, what's working, what's not, what's the level of usage from a principal and a faculty standpoint, more than from a district standpoint, knowing how our district operates with programming like this.
Thank you, Doug. And I see a lot of head shaking. Yes, that you agree with that vantage point. Let's have a motion to table it. Did you make that, Emery?
Yes.
Oh, I can make it a motion to table upon additional information on LPOs, bottom up engagement with principals and teachers. I kind of want to throw in, I don't know if we want to check with the county. I don't want to get a bunch of work to then the county maybe to determine that this might not be eligible on their end.
Good idea, Sarah.
Just a touch base, and I think that was everything. So,
okay.
Upon our committee discussion.
Okay, so there's a motion to table. I don't think that requires a second. So all in favor of tabling the motion, raise your hand. Okay, thank you very much. All right, Laura, thank you for being with us. We hope we'll see you again.
Sally, just for clarity for staff and for Laura as she goes back to work on these pieces, Laura will provide to staff, which would be myself, a Word document outlining the questions that have been reviewed here today. And this will come before the committee in 2 weeks, as you all, Committee A, will meet again. And in the meantime, staff will share it with you.
Okay, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
That's all good. Thank you very much. All right, now where are we at?
We do have a representative on the line for Operation PAR, if you'd like to go
Oh,
back to that.
good. That's great. Okay, let's go back to Operation PAR.
So we have Jim and Denise joining us from that organization. Excuse me, Diane. Sorry about that.
Does someone want to throw out a question before I unmute?
Yes. Who would like to ask a question?
Sorry, I couldn't
Sarah,
find my mute.
Yes, several questions.
Yeah, I would like to know where the PAR bots are going. I think that is my main question. I don't think it specified exactly what locations they would be at.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Dr. Diane Clark. I'm CEO of Operation PAR. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, we're very excited about the PARBOT program. We've been working in collaboration with the Baycare Hospital System, and we plan on having those in emergency rooms where currently we cannot go in because of COVID. And so for people who have been coming in due to overdoses, we're able to have our peer counselors go in bedside into the different emergency rooms and speak with them, but we cannot do that. And we don't know for how long we'll be able to do that. So this is how we're going to be able to use those devices.
Thank you.
So why didn't you list Baycare as one of your LPOs?
I'm sorry, I don't know what an LBO is. Could you?
Okay, so
what is that?
It's a partnership.
Oh.
Logistic partner.
I'm sure it probably had to do with the word count.
No, it didn't. It didn't get answered at all. So I know.
Okay, I apologize.
Well, I mean,
do you have other? That's the use for the PARBOTs.
Okay. I would venture to guess that you would also feel like you're in partnership with some law enforcement and others. I mean, I don't know.
Yes, we're in partnership with, everyone. There was a previous question about a Florida Blue grant that we received that was going to be able to give us 5 PARBOTs. In that, the partners are the Sheriff's Department. We're putting one in the Pinellas County Jail for the Marchman Act people. We are putting one with the county in Bayside Health for the homeless. And so those are our partners in this. For the other 5 that we have received from Florida Blue, we are asking for 10 total. So because Baycare does have 17 hospitals that we collaborate with, but for the ones in Pinellas County, that's where these 5 will go.
Okay. Sarah, you good with that? Okay. Other questions?
Sally, this is Barbara. While we have Diane on the phone, Diane, it's Barbara Morrison Rodriguez. How are you?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Could you just briefly, the committee looked at the prior version of your behavioral health and outcome methodology section. Can you just briefly tell them what you defined, the one measure you finally decided to submit forward? They have not seen your rewrite.
Oh, I apologize.
No, not your fault. They just didn't get it. That's all.
Okay. Well, I am gonna need to pull that up very quickly on my computer here. But the measurement is going to be an increase in census by 10% every month for November and December in our medication-assisted patient services program, our detox program, and our residential services program. And we will see There were also numbers in there regarding the number of people we will be having outreach to at our access center.
Thank you.
Okay, that's good answer, and kind of Dr. Barbara gave us an idea of what it was, but I'm glad you were able to state it for us, Diane. I think that there was a question about where the laptops and iPads are housed. Would you give us some insight into that, please?
The laptops and iPads will be housed in our programs for use by the clients for their job search and their continuing education in our adult facilities. I know there had been a question about why we had not received laptops and computers from the school system, Pinellas County school system. In our adolescent residential program, that is occurring. This is in our adult programs, and they do not have access to that source.
And the school board laptops are very much limited to learning issues, probably not things that would be so relevant to PAR.
Correct,
So
exactly.
It might not be very
useful.
useful.
No, this helps people find housing, find jobs, and as you know, through COVID, it's been a very difficult time for people coming out of treatment to locate those kinds of important
right
activities. Yeah.
So somebody asked, do you really need 10 cleaning machines?
Yes. We have programs all across Pinellas County. We have, I believe it's 7 locations in Pinellas County, and within those locations, they are campuses. So one of our campuses is 9.5 acres that houses at least 100 people. So as we clean the rooms, particularly say in detox, where we serve several hundred, people, they need their own machine. So, we did look at, how many we needed by campus, by program, so that we can use them efficiently and continue to clean the bedrooms so we can get people in effectively.
Okay, thank you. All right, are there other questions? Is the committee ready to take action? I can't make a motion, so I'm relying on you.
I'll make a motion.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we approve the grant in the amount of $414,779 for Operation PAR.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
And that was Sarah. Okay. Is there discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise your hand, please. Is there any opposition? Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Diane.
I can't thank you enough for this opportunity. This is going to make such a difference for Operation PAR and the clients and families we serve every day. As you know, the overdose rate is doubling right now, and we just need to get as many people into treatment as we can and keep people alive and trying to get to recovery. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Diane, for all the work that you all do.
Good luck.
We're well acquainted with PAR and the good work it's done in the community, and needed more than ever before. So thank you.
Sally, just
Yes.
for clarity from staff before we move on, regarding the applications and the timing in which you all receive these, I want you all to understand that this continues to be a moving process, in that, particularly for Operation PAR, the updates to the evaluation section, we did not receive until Tuesday afternoon, October the 20th. And so oftentimes you all will see pieces of applications that have been updated since you all have reviewed them. And we think it's confusing if we send out that additional information. So we thought it was best in this format to be able to provide that for you on screen if necessary. So I just wanted to make that point of clarity around staff and why you all have not seen that. And I suppose that will continue to be the case as we continue to move these along.
I'm good with that. I think everyone is. It does get confusing if you've got too many pieces of paper. So if we just wait until we get to the committee meeting and we get an update, I'm fine with it at least. I hope you all are too. Okay, where we go next?
Thanks, David.
Oh, so we're down to PEMS. Okay, good. So do we have a person on the line with PEMS?
We do.
Okay, good.
I'll unmute once there's direct questions.
Sure. So you can see that it's a behavioral health program. We've seen this before. Haven't we seen this before? I'm telling you, I'm reading so many grants these days that I'm not sure if I have seen them before.
No, I don't think we've seen them.
No.
This is a new one.
Okay, sorry. All right. So let's see what the questions are.
So Sally, while you're digging into questions, it did come back from the fiscal department, specifics regarding this one, as there are capital expenses in there. The organization has updated their budget narrative to include all the bids and all the estimates for all of the capital expenses that will be taking place, to include computers all the way up. So all that information has been provided. Regarding their reimbursement amount, that has also been tweaked and updated, but their total amount requested has not changed. So I do want to just let the team know that.
Okay. So questions that any of the committee members have? I see there's a question about other funding sources and website.
Yeah, I'll own that one. I just want to know, I guess, a little bit more about the Wellness Connection and potential other funding sources with that campaign, and the need for us, the CARES funding, to fund that website.
Okay, so who have we got with us, David?
I think Amanda, but the person from PEMS, you can press *6 and unmute and introduce yourself in case I got your name wrong.
You are correct, David. Amanda was on the line.
Oh, yeah.
Amanda, can you please press *6 and unmute yourself? She might be having technical challenges. Again, Amanda, please press *6 on your phone to unmute yourself.
And I'm not sure if it's because Amanda was, we have Helena raising their hand.
Helena, okay. I've also worked with Helena quite a bit.
Oh, okay.
Reviewing the budget narrative, yes.
Helena, you can unmute.
Our marketing team and the grants team. Helena, can you hear us? Helena, please press *6 on your phone to unmute yourself.
So Elena's on the computer.
Okay.
I'm sorry, this is Maxine Booker. I'm the CEO of PEMS, and I think I can answer that question. Basically, the Wellness Connection is a collaborative partnership with about 11 key partners in the community, service providers who have come together to develop a coordinated system of care in Pinellas County. All of the services that we're providing now are done unfunded. So we're collaborating together to come up with a data set for the county so we can have numbers on numbers served between the agencies. We are working on connections between the agencies, warm handoffs, navigation, and we're working through care pathways that will lead to appropriate levels of care when people contact us. They can contact us virtually, or they can contact us through the PIM 727-791-3131 number. that we have listed. But at this point, we've reached out to some folks to see if they would be willing to fund the Wellness Connection. But at this point, we don't have any takers. So we're doing everything possible at this point to anything that we can do that does not cost to expand our services to the community, basically.
Thank you, Maxine. I know you guys are hitting the ground running on collaboration.
Yes,
So
we
I just
are.
wanted you to make sure to understand all of it. Thank you.
Yeah. So, and also it's our LOPs, BOLI, Operation PAR, Suncoast Directions, ACTS, Community Health Centers, Baycare, HCA Hospital, Winmore, Gulf Coast, Jewish Family Services. So we have an array of different agencies providing an array of different services to the community.
You do. Anybody that knows the mental health community knows that you have a big umbrella.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, just a quick question, which was, it just seems like there's a lot of activity with purchasing equipment and installing, doing some renovations, and also at the same time serving clients. Do you see any challenges with being able to get all of that done and meet your numbers by the end of December?
No, we do not. We have one other space, and our project is focusing more on our emergency services. It's a very small area, and that's where individuals come to be processed, whether they're on Baker Act or they come voluntarily. It's a very small area, so we're not able to social distance individuals right now. And some folks we're sending directly to the unit. So we can continue to do that for the ones who are being admitted. For those who are not being admitted, because we do transfer to other agencies, we're particularly for indigent or low income families or individuals, adults and children. And we would use another area for the intake until that area has been completed. Okay. So we would triage and make sure that we get those individuals to the unit as soon as possible who are staying, and the ones who are not will use another area.
Okay.
Dr. Barbara, are you satisfied with the measurement tool?
Yes, I am. I am. Yes.
Okay, we always want your good housekeeping seal of approval, so that's good.
You got it for this one.
I love that.
Any other questions, comments? What's the action of the committee?
Madam Chair, I have moved that we approve this proposal in the amount of $558,680.
Thank you. I echo.
I second.
I'm sorry, I missed who's second.
That's me, Emery.
Right. Okay, is there discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand, please. Or you could raise your left hand. I won't even know. Thank you. Anyone opposed? Okay, that has been approved. Maxine, Helena, Amanda, whoever's out there. Okay, moving right along. Our next one is St. Augustine Episcopal Church for a food request. So do we have someone, David, in waiting from St. Augustine Episcopal Church?
I'm muted. We have Martha.
Okay.
So if there are any questions.
Okay. Well, I see the most glaring question is the plan is not clear to me. So let's find out what the plan is. Maybe it was only one person that just didn't quite see it, but let's find out what the plan is.
Okay.
So, Martha, welcome. We want to know what your plan is for getting this food out there.
And Martha, if you could please respond in 3 minutes or less, that would be wonderful.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. I'm Martha Goodwill, the founder of Venison Farm. We're small but mighty. Thank you for talking to us today. The plan is that we will increase our capacity. We've already increased it, and that's part of the reimbursement piece of this request, to grow more food and distribute it to the food pantries, the two mentioned as our partners. And then also to have a 1 day a week farmers market on site, so that partially for marketing and partially just to offer access to the produce at a very low cost. That's the plan. Is there something specific that I can help with? I'm happy to talk more, of course, as you can imagine.
Let's see if there's.
That was my question. And it just, I could not connect the dots.
Okay.
You know, I liked what I saw in terms of the, you know, the creativity, but I just wasn't connecting the dots in terms of, you know, the farmers market, growing the food, Venison Farm,
right.
The church, you know, where is church, where's Venison, you know, that kind of thing. And then in the proposal, you mentioned another church in Tampa. So I just wasn't connecting all the dots and how people fit.
Okay. The farm itself is located on the property of St. Augustine's Church, which is on 2920 26th Avenue South, 33712 zip code. The other church that is helping is also in St. Thomas is in St. Petersburg also. So we're a partnership as far as labor goes, and then the St. Augustine's actually is providing the land for the farm. And we're not separately incorporated. We are a part of St. Augustine's Church. Eventually we may be separately incorporated, but we don't have all our financial ducks in a row to be able to do that.
Okay, thank you. That might have been one of those nights I was reading late night.
I understand that, believe me.
Okay, any other questions?
I have a question. It might be more directed to Cherie's team. It's more about tracking the program income. I think this is great. I love the creativity of this program, but with any income derived from the farmers market, they'll just need to report that through December. So I want to make sure you all are aware of that and make sure that that money goes back into the farm, which you noted in your application. I just, for the record, need to say it out loud for myself, but I think this is a great program, a great service for that community.
Thank you.
Sure. Good point, Sarah. Thank you.
Martha, would you like to respond back to that? As we did have some dialogue via email about that exact same thing. The organization is well aware that any funding that is derived from the program would need to go back directly into project services. Martha, can you comment on that, please?
Yes, I'd be happy to. The church is uses fund accounting, nonprofit, of course. And so it has a separate fund for the farm and everything goes in and out of that. So it's separately tracked. And their church bookkeeper does all that work for us, but then I present our monthly, I review it all and then present it to our little bitty committee so that we are making sure that all our dollars are separated.
Thank you. Itty bitty, but small but mighty, you said, right?
That's right.
And I think that it will be a part of your reporting to the county for the CARES Act funding, just so that's a part of the picture. I support the idea, and I know Sarah does too. It's just that we need to have some assurance that it is that we're transparent on that subject as well as all other subjects. Okay, any other questions of Miss Martha? If not, we have are we ready to take some action? Barbara, did you want to say something or are you just rattling paper?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
I
good.
was just looking through my notes to see if I had any notes on this one, and I don't, which means it was okay for me.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Okay, is there a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Bill, you look like you were going to make a motion. Were you going to second that one? I guess he wasn't.
I'll second.
Okay, thanks, Emery. Is there discussion? All in favor of the motion for $9,510? Raise your hand, please. Thank you. Any opposition? I see none. Thank you, members. Okay, and moving on to the next one, and that is High Point, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It is. And do we have someone on the phone from High Point when we're ready for questions?
We do. We have Margot.
Should be on the line, correct? That's executive director.
Yeah.
So Sally, while you're looking through comments for this one specifically, Margot and I have had a lot of conversation. They have updated their budget narrative, which we are happy to present to the committee today. Their funding, the total funding request has not changed, but they did add in additional justification specifically around the numbers of individuals that they are seeing from month to month. So I just wanted to ensure that that was stated for the record.
Okay. Does anybody want to see that narrative, or are you good with the staff having reviewed it? Any questions of any of the committee members? Seems like a pretty straightforward grant request, in my mind at least, but you know, that's why we're a committee, so that some of you will see things differently than I do. So any questions?
I did have one quick question about where they're purchasing their food, and it says that they're purchasing directly from Publix, and I just wondered if they had researched any more economical choices.
Comparison shopping, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay, Martha, could you, I'm sorry, Margot, could you answer that question?
Hi, this is Margot Adams-Reed, High Point Neighborhood Family Center, and I believe you all can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. I see head done. Yes, and actually, you might notice we mentioned Winn-Dixie, Walmart, and Sam's Club, as well as Publix. And actually, Publix is something that we only use when we're looking for a specific item, and it could be something like eggs or things that we can get there. It's local to us. It's right down the road. But we definitely use Winn-Dixie, Walmart, and Sam's Club a whole lot more. But that is something that we have used Publix, so I did need to, and we might use it. So I did want to include it. And probably, yeah, and for some of the times we go to get meats or different things, that we use that.
Margot, can you also share back with the committee a little bit about the relationship with GA Foods that's also notated in your budget narrative, the most recent one that you submitted?
We have had a relationship with GA Foods, I'm going to guess about 8 years now. It started with the Dillinger Foundation. You probably all are familiar with the Dillinger Foundation for Beth, his daughter. But basically, as I think I stated in the narrative, we're a neighborhood family center, and we do food pantry was not our priority. We do after school programming, social work, goal setting for families, job training, a ton of services. Food, we always did the GA food because it provides strictly for families. It was something that we could go pick up from the cases from the warehouse. Previously, we'd pick up 60 cases a week. And then we have, a record of the families who came in and proved their income, proved that they had children in the household, and they could come once a week. And we kept track. Once a week, they could get a box, which held 12 meals. And so then when COVID hit, We doubled our order with GA to 120 boxes a week. And then that was in March, almost immediately in March, and in April we proceeded with that. But then what we decided is, in addition to all that, because the need was so obvious, so huge, I was getting phone calls from my families. They have no food. I'd go deliver it, tell them, you know, this is COVID. So I'd say, I'll put it on your doorstep. I'll wait, you drive away. And so we decided we really needed to focus on food. So that's when we began the partnership with RCS. And RCS, I saw somebody had that question, has been providing us with staple food and some meats. We started a partnership. You know, we just started reaching out and we started fundraising, which is why you'll see our funds begin to be expended in April. This was not the GA food boxes was just our basic, simple give out food program. What we've expanded to is a great big food pantry, and we're trying to be bigger and better because that became the most primary need of all of our families, was they needed food. So through the COVID, that's what we are definitely have shifted a great deal of focus to. And we still give out the GA food boxes. We still give out and still get that double order until sometime in the future. Hopefully it's no longer needed. By the way, we also, the Silly Sinatras, if that sounds familiar to this committee, I believe had gotten some funding, the Singing Sinatras, and they bring us chicken once in a while, you know, on a consistent, regular basis. There's just different ways that we've had a lot of help from the community, but us getting money and going out and buying food has become a very big, important mission to us.
Thank you, Margot.
Thank you. Are there questions? Any other questions that haven't gotten answered? Is there a motion to take action?
I'll motion to approve.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there, okay, thank you, Stacy. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise your hand, please. In opposition? Thank you so much, committee members. Thank you, Margot, for being on the phone with us and giving us some more insights into what you're doing at High Point. Sounds like a lot of good work. Okay, have we covered all the grants, or did we have any that we jumped over that we have to go back to?
No, Sally, we have covered all of them.
Okay.
Emery did get disconnected when everyone voted. So if we want to get his vote on the record for this motion.
I'm sorry, but say that again. I didn't hear what you said.
Emery got disconnected during the vote. And so just to record his vote for this specific motion would be good.
Yep,
right.
I vote yes.
So you're voting yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Emery.
Sure.
Okay, so I guess that's a wrap for this part at least, but I'm sure that Sherry and Duggan have some amazing news to give us that is going to make us happy or whatever.
Committee so much for continuing to hang in there with us as we continue to move these grant applications through. I can tell you that PCF staff, Pinellas staff team have been very busy and projecting what's coming very shortly to you, while we will continue to be very busy. So look for additional applications over the next few weeks as the need is still out there and nonprofits are still responding to the need. So thank you so much. And of course, I will follow up after today and provide you with the additional information that you've requested about Inner Explorer.
Right.
Duggan, do you have anything else to add?
I was just going to say on the Inner Explorer issue, I think I'm going to have some conversation with the county before we have them dig in. If it's something that the county really isn't going to entertain, then we don't need to continue to ask the questions. But if the county wants to entertain that based on the discussion we had today, we'll let Inner Explorer know.
I think that's very worthwhile, Duggan, to, we don't want to be spinning wheels if we don't need to. And either on your time or their time for that matter. So yeah, that would be good. Any other news of the day, Duggan?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. Well, once again, I appreciate all that you've done. The staff is wonderful. I hear that from people all the time. So lucky me. I hope you get to hear that too. And so I'm passing it along if you don't get to hear it, because people are very appreciative of the help that the staff has been giving, and you know, not throwing in the towel too early, but really helping people get to where they need to go. So thank you for that. And committee members, you know, you're doing gangbusters in making some comments, scoring the grants. I think you're all doing it in time. Brittany, you can name names if there's anybody that's coming in after Tuesday. But
Everybody's always right on time.
that's good. So I'm really glad that all of you are here and will continue to work with us. And you know, we're going to see some of these come back around, so we want to make them good and be sure that we're asking the best questions that we possibly can to be sure that we're doing what is within the purview of the CARES Act funding and what the county wants to do. So that being said, I'll see you in 2 weeks, and you know, read away and go Rays.
Go Rays.
Go Rays.